The internet connection had dropped out again. My name is Arnold, and I was sitting at a research station in Antarctica. I was 47 years old, and the satellite link, our only tie to the world, had been sputtering on and off for 3 agonizing days. When it finally roared back to life, my phone exploded. 2 I-16 notifications, text messages, emails, a flood of missed calls from numbers I didn't know. My sister alone had called 11 times. I felt a cold dread, the certainty that something terrible, someone's death, had happened. I opened the messages. The first was from a colleague in Seattle. It simply read, "Man, I'm so sorry." The second from my brother. "Call me as soon as you can. Don't look at social media." So naturally, I looked at social media. The video had 4 million views. It was my wife standing in our kitchen, the kitchen I had painted 2 summers ago. She was throwing her head back, laughing, one hand resting on the counter. A man stood behind her, his arms wrapped around her waist. I didn't know him. He was younger than me, thinner. He kissed her neck while she spoke into the camera. "While my husband is in the cold," she said, still laughing, "someone else is warming me up." The man grinned at the camera. She turned and kissed him. The video ended. The caption beneath it read, "Finally free. New chapter starts now." I sat there for a long time. The bass was quiet, just the low hum of the generator and the wind tearing outside. I could hear one of the other researchers moving around in the lab next door. But I couldn't move. I didn't call anyone. I just stared at the screen until it went dark. I had been in Antarctica for 3 months. I had 3 more to go. This expedition was supposed to be the culmination of 8 years of my life. Climate data, ice core samples, work that genuinely mattered, work I had spent my entire adult life building toward. My wife, Vanessa, knew that. She knew the timeline before I left. We had been married for 19 years. I tried to recall our last conversation before I flew out. She had driven me to the airport. We didn't talk much in the car. She asked if I had everything. I said yes. She told me to be safe. I kissed her goodbye at the curb. She smiled. I thought it was a normal smile. My mind kept cycling back to the video. Her laugh, the way she looked at the camera like she was performing, like this was something she had carefully planned and wanted the entire world to witness. I put the phone down. I didn't reply to my sister, my brother, or the dozens of other messages. I didn't watch the video again. I stood up, put on my coat, and walked outside. The sky was an endless white. The wind was a physical blade cutting through every layer of clothing. I stood there until my face was numb. Then I went back inside. Over the next few days, the messages continued to trickle in. My sister kept calling. My brother sent long, desperate texts trying to explain the unexplainable. Apparently, the video had been posted the day the satellite link went out and went viral within hours. People from my hometown, colleagues, old friends, everyone had seen it. My brother informed me that Vanessa had filed for divorce 2 weeks before posting the video. I hadn't known. The papers were sitting in a drawer at home. She hadn't told me. She had waited until I was as far from civilization as a person could get, and then she made her announcement public. I still didn't respond to anyone. The other researchers noticed I was quiet, but they didn't ask. We were all used to isolation. Still, a woman named Fiona left a thermos of coffee outside my door one morning. I found it when I went to check the weather station. I brought it inside and drank it. It helped. Work became the only thing that made sense. I spent 14 hours a day in the lab. I ran tests. I cataloged samples. I wrote reports. The data was clean, predictable. It didn't lie. It didn't humiliate me in front of millions of people. At night, I lay in my bunk staring at the ceiling, thinking about going home, about what I would say. But mostly I thought about her laugh. How happy, how completely free she had looked. It was during those freezing nights that I had a realization. She hadn't just left me. She had made a spectacle of it. She had turned our 19-year marriage into content, something people could watch, comment on, and share. She didn't just want out. She wanted attention. That's when the anger began. It wasn't loud or explosive. It was cold and steady. It settled into my chest like the ice outside and didn't go away. I started thinking clearly, methodically. I thought about our finances, the house, everything we had built together. I thought about the man in the video, how long this had been going on, and what she thought would happen when I got back. She thought I'd be broken. That was the point of the video, to humiliate me, to make sure I knew she had moved on, to show the world she had won. But she had made a mistake. She had given me time, 6 months in the coldest place on earth with nothing to do but think. And I was good at thinking. I was a scientist. I solved problems. I didn't send a single message. Not to her, not to anyone. I let the silence stretch. I let everyone wonder what I was thinking, what I would do. 3 months passed, then 4, then 5. The video lost its momentum. People moved on to the next viral thing. My phone stopped buzzing. The messages slowed down, but I kept working, kept planning. When the transport plane finally arrived to pick us up, I packed my things carefully. I said goodbye to the other researchers. Fiona gave me a hug and told me to take care of myself. I thanked her. On the flight back, I didn't sleep. I sat in my seat and watched the ice disappear below us. I thought about what came next, every step, every move. By the time we landed in Seattle, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I met Vanessa when I was 28. She was a marketing coordinator, and I was finishing my doctorate. We got married a year later. The first decade was good. We bought a house in Spokane. We had routines, schedules, a life that looked perfectly fine from the outside. But somewhere along the way, we stopped being a team. I was focused on my career, the grants, the research, the travel. She was focused on hers. Looking back, I realized I couldn't remember the last time we had a real, meaningful conversation. The Antarctica expedition was my biggest achievement. 6 months of data that could genuinely change how we understood climate patterns. Vanessa knew how important it was. She told me to go. She said she would be fine. I believed her. Now I understood she had wanted me gone. She needed the space to move him in, set up her new life, and film that video. The more I thought about it, the more the pieces clicked. Her distance before I left, her sudden lack of interest in my work, her insistence that I take the full 6 months instead of coming back for the holidays. She had been planning this. I thought about Julian, the man in the video. I didn't know his name yet, but I would. I thought about how comfortable he looked in my kitchen, his hands on my wife like he belonged there, like I was already erased. The house was mine before we married. I'd added her name to the deed because she said it made her feel secure. Our finances were joint. Everything we earned went into the same accounts. I had always handled the money because she didn't like dealing with numbers. She trusted me. Or so I thought. My sister had called me an idiot. She said everyone saw what was happening except me. She said Vanessa had been posting photos with the guy for weeks before the divorce video, that people were talking. I hadn't known. I wasn't on social media. That was another mistake. My brother was more careful. He said Vanessa had moved the guy into the house a week after I left. Everyone in the neighborhood knew. He offered me his guest room. I didn't respond. I didn't need his guest room. That was my house. After 36 hours of travel, I landed in Seattle. I turned my phone back on. More messages, but nothing from Vanessa. I took a cab to a hotel near the airport. I didn't go home, not yet. I needed to think, to plan. I checked in, opened my laptop, and started going through our accounts. Bank statements, credit cards, investment portfolios. Everything was still joint. She hadn't changed anything. That surprised me. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe she thought I would simply roll over, sign the papers, and let her have whatever she wanted. I spent 3 hours going through everything, taking notes and screenshots. By the time I was done, I had a clear picture of our financial situation. It was better than I thought, and she had made small but significant mistakes. I closed the laptop, ordered room service, and ate in silence. Then I slept for 12 hours straight. When I woke up, the anger was still there, but it was focused and sharp. I made a list of things to do, people to call, and documents to gather. Then I picked up my phone and sent my first message in 6 months. It was to a lawyer. The lawyer's name was Gregory. He was recommended by a colleague. I called him from the hotel. He said he had seen the video. Everyone had. He offered his sympathy. I told him I didn't need sympathy. I needed results. We met at his office the next morning. He was in his 50s, gray-haired and sharp. "What do you want?" he asked. "Everything," I said. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. I told him about the house, the finances, the expedition. and the fact that I had been gone for 6 months while she moved another man into my home. He explained the strategy. Washington was a no-fault state, but that didn't mean fault couldn't be demonstrated. She humiliated you publicly, Gregory said. We can use that. Social media works both ways. She made herself look bad. We just need to make sure everyone remembers that when this goes to court. I liked the way he thought. We spent 2 hours going over everything. He explained the next steps. Do not contact her, he warned. Do not go to the house. Do not engage. Let me handle it. I nodded, but I had no intention of staying away. I left his office and drove 4 hours to Spokane. When I got to the house, it was late afternoon. I parked across the street and waited. The sun began to set. At 6:30, a car pulled up. It was a navy blue truck. Julian got out. He walked up to the door like he owned the place. He had a key. He let himself in. I watched the lights come on inside. 20 minutes later, Vanessa's car pulled in. She got out carrying grocery bags. She looked the same. She was smiling. I watched them through the kitchen window. The kitchen I had painted. He kissed her. She laughed. The same laugh from the video. I started the car and drove back to Seattle. I checked into a different hotel and called Gregory. I told him what I had seen. He told me again not to go back. I told him I wouldn't. Over the next 2 weeks, I put the pieces together. I hired a private investigator named Lawrence. He was quiet, efficient, and expensive. I didn't care about the cost. Lawrence found out Julian's details. 32 years old, worked in sales, had been seeing Vanessa for 8 months. Lawrence got me everything. Photos of them together, a clear timeline, and credit card statements. She had been planning this long before I left. Gregory used everything. He filed a response to the divorce, including documentation of the affair. He requested full ownership of the house, arguing it was mine before the marriage, and she had violated the terms of our partnership. He requested a heavy division of assets in my favor, and that she cover her own legal fees. It was aggressive. It was meant to be. Vanessa's lawyer pushed back, claiming the video was taken out of context and that I had been emotionally absent for years. Gregory laughed. They have nothing, he said. But I had been saving one more thing. Before I left for Antarctica, I had restructured some of our investments, moving money into accounts solely in my name. It was legal. We had joint control, and I simply exercised that control. I did it for practical reasons, worried about access to funds while I was gone. But the timing in retrospect was perfect, I told Gregory. He stared at me, then smiled. You moved money before you left? Yes, $140,000. He leaned back in his chair. That changes things, because it means you were protecting assets. And if you were protecting assets, it means you had reason to believe the marriage was in trouble, which means her affair was not a surprise, which means she doesn't get to play the victim. I had not thought of it that way, but I liked it. Now we push, Gregory said. We make this as difficult as possible. We make her regret going public. We make Julian wish he had never met her. I nodded. And Arnold, he added. Do not do anything stupid. Let me handle this. Trust the process. I told him I would, but I had already started making other plans. I decided to go back to the house. Gregory told me not to, but I did it anyway. It was a Tuesday morning. I had Lawrence confirm Vanessa and Julian were both in meetings downtown. I had 3 hours. I pulled into the driveway. The grass needed cutting. Weeds choked the flower beds, things I used to take care of. I used my key. The lock hadn't been changed. Arrogance or stupidity. The house smelled different, new cologne, different cleaning products. The furniture had been rearranged. There were pictures on the walls I didn't recognize. Photos of Vanessa and Julian smiling. My photos were gone. I walked through each room. The kitchen felt wrong. Upstairs, in our bedroom, the bed was made, but there were men's clothes in the closet that weren't mine. My things were gone. I found them in the spare room, boxes. My boxes, everything I owned packed away like garbage. Clothes, books, tools, photographs, all of it shoved into a spare room. I didn't touch anything. I just stood there and let the anger settle deeper. In the office, my desktop computer was missing. Every document, every record related to my work was gone. That was when I realized she had been thorough. This wasn't just about leaving me. It was about erasing me. I pulled out my phone and took photos of everything. Every room, every box, every change. I documented it all. Then I left. I called Gregory from the car and told him what I had found. 2 days later, Gregory filed a motion for immediate occupancy. He argued that I was being unlawfully kept from my own property, that my belongings had been removed without consent. The hearing was scheduled for the following week. Vanessa's lawyer argued that I had abandoned the property by leaving for 6 months. Gregory tore that apart. He showed the judge photos of my belongings boxed up. He showed receipts proving I had been paying the mortgage the entire time. He showed documentation that the house had been mine before the marriage. The judge, a tired-looking woman in her 60s, looked at Vanessa. "Mrs. Arnold," she said, "did you remove your husband's belongings from the primary living spaces?" Vanessa hesitated. "Yes," she finally said, "but he was gone." I needed space. Space for what? The judge asked. Vanessa didn't answer. The judge looked at the photos again. Then she looked directly at me. "Mr. Arnold, do you want to return to this property?" "Yes," I said. "When?" "Today." The judge nodded, signed a document, and handed it to the clerk. "Mr. Arnold has the right to occupy the property. Mrs. Arnold, you have 72 hours to make arrangements for alternative housing. This is temporary until the divorce is finalized, but for now, Mr. Arnold returns to his home." Vanessa's face went white. Her lawyer started to object, but the judge cut him off. "This is not a debate. The property was his before the marriage. He has continued to pay for it. He has every right to be there." 72 hours, we left the courthouse. Vanessa wouldn't look at me. Julian was waiting outside and started to speak, but Gregory, my lawyer, put a hand on my shoulder and kept me moving. "Do not engage," he said. "You won." I didn't feel like I'd won. I felt like I had just started. That night I stayed in a hotel. I gave Vanessa the full 72 hours. I didn't want to give her any excuse, any reason to claim I had forced her out. On Friday afternoon, I drove to the house. Her car was gone. Julian's truck was gone. I used my key. The house was quiet. Most of the furniture was still there. But her personal things, clothes, toiletries, the photos of her and Julian, that new coffee maker, were all gone. It was like she had never been there. Except she had. For 19 years, I walked through the house slowly. I opened windows and let the cold, clean air in. I started unpacking my boxes. I put my books back on the shelves, my tools back in the garage, my clothes back in the closet. It took hours. By the time I finished, it was dark outside. I sat on the couch, my couch in my house, and felt nothing. No relief, no satisfaction. Just emptiness. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "You are going to regret this." I stared at it. I knew it was Julian. I didn't respond. I blocked the number. 2 hours later, another text, a different number. "This is not over." I blocked that one too. They kept coming. 5 texts that night, all from different numbers, all the same kind of thing. Threats, warnings, promises that I would pay. I didn't respond to any of them. I just kept blocking. After the 7th one, they stopped. I went to bed in my own room. I thought about what came next. The divorce was still pending. The asset division still being fought. Vanessa was still going to try to take half of everything. But I had the house. That was something. I woke up the next morning to pounding on the door. I looked at the clock, 6:15 a.m. I went downstairs. It was Julian. He was standing on my porch, fists clenched, face red. "Open the door," he yelled. I didn't. "I know you're in there. Open the fucking door." I pulled out my phone and started recording. Then I called the police. Julian kept yelling. He said I had ruined everything, that Vanessa was a mess, that it was all my fault, and that now I was acting like the victim. I just stood there inside, phone in hand, recording. The police arrived about 8 minutes later. 2 officers. They talked to Julian, who was still yelling and pointing at the house and at me through the window. One of the officers walked up to the door. I opened it. "Are you Arnold?" "Yes." "Is this your house?" "Yes." I showed him the court order. He read it, nodded, and went back to Julian. I couldn't hear what they said, but Julian kept arguing, kept pointing. Finally, one of the officers said something sharp. Julian stopped. He looked at me one last time, got in his truck, and drove away. The officer came back to the door. "If he comes back, call us." "I will." I closed the door. I sent the video to Gregory. Then I sent it to Lawrence, the private investigator. Julian had just made another mistake. Lawrence called me the next morning. "I have something," he said. "You're going to want to see this." We met at a coffee shop in downtown Spokane. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were Julian's financial records, bank statements, credit reports, tax documents. "How did you get these?" I asked. "You don't want to know," Lawrence said. "But they are real." I read through them. Julian was broke. Not just broke, but buried. He had over $60,000 in credit card debt, student loans, and a car payment he was behind on. His bank account was overdrawn constantly. "He is using her," Lawrence stated. I kept reading. There were records of transfers, money moving from joint accounts I shared with Vanessa, going to Julian, paying his rent, his car payment, his credit cards. She has been funding him, I realized. For months, Lawrence confirmed. Since before you left, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands. Money I had earned, money that was supposed to be ours. "There is more," Lawrence said, pulling out another document. "He has a record. Julian had been arrested 3 years ago for fraud. He had sold fake investment opportunities, taken money from people, and served 6 months. Does she know?" I asked. "I don't think so," Lawrence said. "Or maybe she doesn't care." I closed the folder. It didn't make sense that Vanessa, who was so smart, would fall for a transparent fraud, unless she was completely in the dark, unless he had played her the same way he played everyone else. I took the folder straight to Gregory's office. He read through everything. "This is good," he finally said. "How?" "Because it shows motive. Shows he targeted her. And it shows she was giving away marital assets without your consent. We can use all of it." Gregory filed another motion. This time, he requested a freeze on all joint accounts, arguing that Vanessa had been misappropriating funds and there was a pattern of financial misconduct. In the 2 weeks leading up to the hearing, Lawrence kept digging. He found more emails and texts between Vanessa and Julian. The messages confirmed my suspicions. Julian was a con artist. He had found an easy target, a woman in a failing marriage with money. He moved in, isolated her, and made her dependent on him. And she had let him. The messages about the video were most telling. It was Julian's idea. He thought it would be funny, empowering. She had hesitated, saying it felt cruel, but he convinced her. I felt something shift inside me. The anger was still there, but now there was a flicker of pity for Vanessa. She had thrown away 19 years for a man who was clearly using her. But that pity didn't change what she had done to me. At the hearing, Gregory presented everything. Julian's financial records, his criminal history, the emails showing the fraud. Vanessa's lawyer tried to downplay it, arguing she had a right to spend money from joint accounts. The judge didn't agree. "Mrs. Arnold," the judge said, "did you transfer marital funds to Mr. Julian without your husband's knowledge?" Vanessa looked at her lawyer, who nodded. "Yes," she said quietly. "How much?" "I don't know exactly," Gregory stood. $47,000, Your Honor, over a period of 7 months. The judge looked directly at Vanessa. $47,000. And you didn't think your husband deserved to know about this? "He wasn't here," Vanessa whispered. "He left me alone for 6 months. He left for work," the judge countered. "He did not abandon you. He went to Antarctica for research you knew about before he left." Vanessa started to cry. The judge remained unmoved. "All joint accounts are frozen," the judge ruled. "Mrs. Arnold, you are prohibited from accessing any shared financial resources. Mr. Arnold will have sole access until this is resolved." Vanessa's lawyer objected that this left his client with no means of support. "Then perhaps," the judge said, "she should have thought about that before giving away $47,000. Once we were outside, Gregory smiled. "She's done. No money, no leverage, no options. She will have to settle." "What about Julian?" I asked. "What about him?" "I want him gone." Gregory was quiet. "Arnold, he's not your problem." "Yes, he is," I said. "He made himself my problem when he moved into my house, when he convinced my wife to humiliate me, when he spent my money." "Find out if he violated his probation," I told him. "Find out if he's committing fraud again." "I'll pay extra," Gregory agreed. I went home. I tried to focus on my research, but I couldn't. All I could think about was what they had done. My sister called me. Arnold, you need to let this go. You need to move on. I will, I said. When it's over. Everyone kept telling me not to do anything stupid. But they didn't understand. This wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. A few days later, Lawrence called. Julian is working under a false name. His real name is Julian Hoffman, but at work he goes by Julian Hayes. He changed it after his conviction. Is that illegal? He claimed no criminal record on his job application. Lawrence said. He signed it under penalty of perjury. I have copies, I smiled. The first time in weeks. Send it to Gregory. Gregory forwarded the information to Julian's employer, his probation officer, and the State Department of Corrections. It took less than a week. Julian was fired. His probation officer scheduled a hearing. He was looking at going back to jail. Vanessa called me. Her voice was shaking. What did you do? I didn't do anything, I said. I just made sure the right people had the right information. He's going to lose everything. He never had anything, I replied. He was using you. Did you ever figure that out? 47,000, Vanessa. Did he ever pay you back? That's none of your business. It is my business when it was my money. Why are you doing this? She asked, crying now. You know why? Because of the video. Because of all of it. The lying, the cheating, the humiliation. Moving him into my house, spending my money, posting that video while I was on the other side of the world. You wanted to destroy me. You wanted everyone to see me broken. I love him, she cried. No, you don't. You love the attention. You love feeling wanted. But you don't love him because if you did, you would have seen what he really is. She hung up. Gregory called the next day. Vanessa wants to settle. What are the terms? She wants to walk away. No claims on the house. No claims on your retirement. She just wants her personal belongings and whatever is left in her personal accounts. She doesn't get to negotiate on his behalf, I said. 2 days later, they came back with a new offer. Vanessa would take nothing. She would sign away all claims to marital property, pay her own legal fees, and agree to a quick, quiet divorce. No mention of Julian this time. Tell her yes, I said. But I want it in writing. Everything, and I want her to sign a statement admitting the affair, admitting the financial misappropriation, all of it. Gregory made it happen. 3 days later, I had the signed documents. The divorce was finalized a week later. I didn't attend the hearing. Gregory called me afterward. It's done. You are officially divorced. Good, I went back to work. I published papers, planned conferences, and threw myself into my research. 3 months after the divorce, Lawrence called. Julian got sentenced yesterday. 2 years, and Vanessa? She moved back in with her parents, lost her job. The video still follows her around? I felt nothing. Thanks for letting me know. I sat in my office. My house, my life. Everything was mine again, but it still felt empty. I missed the clarity of Antarctica. The simplicity, then I checked my email. A message from the Research Institute. They were planning an expedition to the Arctic. They wanted to know if I was interested. I read it twice. I closed my laptop. I walked outside. The sun was setting. I stood there for a long time, just breathing. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister. Dinner this weekend, I smiled. The first real smile in months. Yes, I typed back. I went inside, made myself a meal, and ate at my table. I slept through the night. When I woke up, I felt different, lighter. I still had work to do, but for the first time since I saw that video, I felt like I could do it. I sat down at my desk and started writing. Not about Vanessa, not about Julian, not about revenge. About the ice. About the data. About what mattered. The rest would take care of itself.